Right now, this example 7.22 is a continuation. This is part 2 of your section 7.3. It's pretty tricky. You could try it on your own if you want to pause, but I'll go through it with you. So here we have 12x squared plus 16xy minus 3y squared. So we have the y to deal with. And we have a lead coefficient of 12, which has a few different possibilities how I could split that up. So we're going to try by trial and error first, and then I'll probably show you the box method too. This is one I might use the grouping on because it's a little tricky, even though it says factor by trial and error. We're working on that, but I want to show you both. So here we're going to write our parentheses. We always want to look for a greatest common factor to see if there's anything that divides into all three terms. And in this case, I don't have that, so I can't use that to my advantage. But I'm going to think about like what factors of 12, like what are my choices? How would they split up? I'm going to have a 12 and a 1. So when I do this method, let me clarify too, I'm not doing the AC method. So I'm just looking at each thing separately. So for 12, I have like a 12 and a 1. I have a 6 and a 2, or 3 and 4 different combinations that I could put here and here. I know that I have a plus and a negative for my signs. So I know I have to have opposite signs. Okay. And I know that I have an X here and a Y here. So I'm going to fill those in. I'm going to have something X, X, and then something Y, something Y. So for my first term, I have 12x squared. So I might think, 3x would be a good choice. So I could do, let me pick a different color here, 3x and a 4x, that would give me a 12x squared. And then I need to get a negative 3y squared. So if I did this, if I had 3x plus 3y times 4x minus y, well, that'll give me my ends okay, but do I get the middle? So that's what we need to really, really check. So let's do just the OI part here, the outsides and the insides. So the outsides are going to be 3xy, and then my insides are going to be 12xy. So altogether I get 15xy, which is not what I'm looking for. I'm looking for 16xy. So I need to just, ditch this one. That one doesn't work. Leave it there though, so I see, what your trials are. So I'm going to try a new one. I could try switching the signs on those. I could do a variety of things. So let me just try the next one. I'm going to do, let's try 3x plus y times 4x minus 3y. So sometimes I just kind of pick, we're going to switch up these. I'm going to try a new one. So then I would get negative 9xy plus a 4xy, which gives me a negative 5xy. Again, no go. That one's no good. So I'm going to try another one. So now I'm going to try the 6 and the 2. So let's try that. So I'm going to do 6x plus y and a 2x minus 3y. And let's see how that works. So I get my outside would be 6x times the negative 3y is going to be negative 18xy. And then I get a inside of plus 2xy. So that gives me a negative 16xy, which I'm getting very close. I have the wrong sign. So that one's no good, but now let's just switch the signs around. So I have 6x minus y because I need that to be negative and this to be positive. So then I have 2x plus 3y. So then when I check that middle term, the outsides, I get a positive 18xy. And for the inside, I get a negative 2xy. So there it is. I got it. So happy about that. That's kind of a long and challenging problem. This is where it could possibly be quicker to do the AC method, but I actually just might show that in an alternate video. These are getting kind of long and deeper in than we need to go for this first part, but I will do some of those as an alternative for people who want that. I just changed my mind. I don't want to mix it in. So I'm going to do one more here. I'm going to do just example 7.23. So that's on page 98. If you want to try that one on your own, the trick is you need to factor out a greatest common factor first. So you always want to look at that. Do that and then factor the trinomial that's left. Try using trial and error. So pause the video, try doing that. But just, follow along with me if you're not sure at all or you want to kind of do it in stages. So I'm just going to read the problem before you pause. 18x to the fourth minus 21x to the third minus 15x squared. So the first thing I'm going to do is factor out this GCF of 3x squared. That divides into all three terms in this trinomial. That is a must. You have to have that be the case. You can't just pull it out of one. Just like before, similar to our prior section. So 3x squared, let me just leave that right outside, times 6x squared minus 7x minus 5. I'll just kind of do a quick check back, make sure they're all good. But now I can also factor this, or I'm going to try to. If I couldn't, then I would be done. Like I think way at the beginning, I gave you some that were like this, and you just couldn't factor that trinomial or whatever was left in there. So now I'm just going to bring down this 3x squared, and I'm going to make my skeleton here for my trial and error. And I know I need to have the 6 split up. I have a couple of different choices. I have a 6 and a 1, and a 3 and a 2. I don't have too many different issues going on. So I'm just going to randomly try. Let's try 3x here and 2x here. Because this is pretty small, so I don't think I'm going to need a 6 and a 1. I think that would come out too big. And then I also need to keep in mind that I have a negative on the last term here, so I'm going to have opposite signs. So I'm going to go ahead and just plop those in there. And 5 just splits apart. It's 5 and 1, only choice. So I'm just going to go ahead and just plop those in there and see what happens. Because sometimes just that first one, that initial one, gives you enough info. So it's not just simply guess and check. Well, maybe the first one is just like kind of guess and based on the factors. But then you're fine-tuning your guesses. You're narrowing it down. And your brain will start to rewire and kind of get how to piece these together. Just like if you did a lot of Sudoku or Ken and stuff like that. I do a lot of those. So 3x times negative 5 for my middle term would give me a negative 15x. That's my outsides. My insides is plus 2x. So together that adds up to be negative 13x. So that one's a no-go. So no good. So we're going to try trial 2. So you can even label these trial 1, trial 2. So like if I'm grading you on a test, I see some work. So then I have 3x squared. And now what I'm going to do is think, well, I need to get this middle term a little differently set up. So I'm going to try 3x still here, 3x and the 2x, but I'm going to swap out the -5 and the 1. So I'm going to have -5 here, because then, oh, that gives me a 10 when I multiply. That's kind of nice. And then the 1. So I will have a, so that's an orange, 3x times 1 for my outsides, so that's just the 3x. My middle term is going to be minus 10x. Together I get negative 7x. Bingo, that's what I'm looking for. And then just quick check your ends. 3x times 2x does in fact give me 6x squared. My last negative 5 times 1, make sure you get that, negative 5. And that is a match to this. Don't forget to bring that 3x squared with it wherever you go. Okay, so that one is a good one. For this one, I'm going to say we can skip it for now, or actually I'm going to tack on a grouping method for this one. Because if they get kind of this messy, I would do the grouping method or box method. Okay, so if you want to see that with a more complicated problem, stay on. If not, you're allowed to skip. It's okay. You can just write that. I wrote that in the video notes, okay? Okay, so the first thing I'm going to do on this is factor out a GCF. So that GCF would be 2x. So then I'm left with 8x squared plus 14xy minus 15y squared. Now note that I have a negative here, so I'm definitely going to have opposite signs. So I'm going to do the AC method, which is this, grouping or box method. So A is 8 and C is negative 15. So I have to multiply those together. When I do that, I get negative 120. And then once I do that, I have to add to B. Not add B, but maybe we should say sum to B. They have to add up factors of AC that add to B. Okay, so my B that I'm looking for is positive 14. And remember, I have to account for the X and Y, but I'll do that separately. So my choices for 120 factors, I could have a negative 60 and a 2. If I add those up, no, that's not going to be 14. I can tell right away. So ditch those. And remember, I have to go and split this apart. That's what I'm doing, splitting that apart. I'm not popping into the skeletons. It's not trial and error. It's a different thing entirely. So we have negative 30 and 4, still not equal to 14. Let's try negative 20 and 6. That actually would add up to negative 14, still not equal to 14. So if I just switch my signs on that and do a positive 20 with a negative 6, then I am in business. That is going to be my positive 14. So now I'm going to take and split those apart. That's why I even write that plus in there. So it's a different thing than I was doing with the previous example. So 2x, and then I would just rewrite this with the B split, kind of like think banana split. 8x squared plus 20xy minus 6xy. and then minus my 15y squared. Now I'm going to use factor by grouping. I'm actually going to just put this in the box. Just going to leave this here. That'll just carry down in my next line, okay? I'm just going to leave that there for now. And then in this next step, that's where when I figure out these factors, that's what's going to go in my skeleton. So for now, I'm just writing down the 8x squared, the 20xy, the negative 6xy, and the minus 15y squared. So I might have to play with that a little bit and rearrange things. Okay, so first I'm going to look at my 8x squared and my 20xy. So I'm looking at this first row. And I can pull out a 4x out of that. And that will actually leave me with a 2x up here. And then it'll leave me with a plus 5y right here. I'm just, doing area model multiplying on a grid. So we have on the next row, right here, I have negative 6xy and a minus 15y squared. So I'm going to pull out a negative 6y. I want orange there. Negative 6y. And let's see. Oh, actually, I don't want to pull out a 6. I need to pull out a 3. Whoops. Because that's not 18, it's 15. Okay, so negative 3y. And then check that against here. Negative 3y times the 2x does in fact give me negative 6xy. Negative 3y times 5y gives me negative 15y squared. So if I then go and write these inside here, 4x minus 3y, and I have 2x plus 5y. Now those are my binomials, right? This first step. So you have an extra step in the box method, a couple extra steps. So that's why the trial and error, I personally really like that. But sometimes it is just messy. You have really big numbers like this to work with. So if we check it, we would have our first, so we have this little 2x, then we have our first is going to be 8x squared. We have our outsides is going to be the plus 20xy. We have our insides is minus 6xy, and our last is minus 15y squared. Okay, so then we get our 2x times 8x squared minus or plus 14xy minus 15y squared. So I got this back up here. Kind of look back up here. Okay. And then if I finally distribute that 2x, I definitely get back my 16x cubed plus my 28x squared y minus the 30xy squared. And so again, mark your answers very clearly. This is my final answer right here. You can see where a lot of it could get lost. This is my check. And then finally I did get everything I needed. This is showing my work. So there's a ton of steps with these, and you will do more of that in Math 99, but by 141 you're expected to pretty much just have your method and do it. I might review it the first couple of days, but here's where you really want to grab onto it. So if there's anything else you want to see done by this grouping method, or one I did by grouping and not trial and error, vice versa, I mean, you can just ask me, just request, and I'm, kind of building a repertoire of videos. Or there's also the extra videos that I'll put in that James Souza does, or Tyler Wallace, and you have a bunch of videos in your homework that are available to you as well. So I hope you have plenty of resources, but key thing is don't mix methods. And then if you're in a test situation, don't play around, just, pick your method and stick to it throughout your quiz and test, but do play around and experiment and try different things for your homework and stuff, but always check your answers. That's why the electronic homework's great for this, because you'll know right away, like if you're consistently getting them wrong and you just can't get that middle term and don't know how to set them up, and that's where you're going to be asking me questions. Just send me a question right through the homework. I can do that one out for you, that very specific one. We can talk about it. We can Zoom. We're almost done. Just hang in there and have a great day.